Good evening and welcome to Thursdays with NAMI. My name is Peg Morrison. I'll be your host tonight. I am the Assistant Director of NAMI North Carolina. That's the National Alliance on Mental Illness North Carolina, and I'm glad you're here. Thursdays with NAMI is our way of looking at all kinds of different topics, building conversations and building community around the topic of mental health. So how do you go from spending years in an institution to living on your own and being part of a community? Tonight, we'll be looking at how that plays out for folks who are incarcerated. Unfortunately, in the United States, we're really good at locking people up, especially if you happen to be Black and or have a mental illness. Let's look at some numbers. The United States actually imprisons more people than China, almost as many people as China. Sorry, that's unsettling because China's population is 5 times as big. In other words, China is home to 19% of the world's population. Only 4% of the world's people live in the United States. And of course, the incarceration rate here is much higher than that of our allies around the world. So looking at mental health, it's not illegal, of course, to have a mental health condition, but it really increases your odds of ending up behind bars. The rate of mental illness in prison is 4 to 7 times higher than for the average rate of the country. And of course, there's trauma too. It's very traumatic to be there. People spend time in solitary confinement. That's actually considered torture. So a lot of things not going well, a lot of things not okay. And certain members of our society are losing years of their lives to mass incarceration. Now, if you want to discuss the policy side of this, how can we change it? Who should we call? What laws do we need? Please get in touch with our policy director, Ashish George. He will give you all the ins and outs. He's a wonderful contact. For tonight's program, we're looking at how folks can reclaim their lives on the outside. What are the steps involved? And how the rest of us can help. Tonight's guest is James Smith of the Alliance of Disability Advocates. He'll be sharing his story and his expertise with us in just a few moments. As usual, the first part of our show will be an interview with our guest. About halfway through, we'll show a video of the week, and then we'll spend time taking questions from you, members of the virtual studio audience on Zoom and Facebook Live. First, we're going to have a quick word from our sponsors. Thursdays with NAMI is sponsored in part by the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Mental Health, Developmental Disabilities, and Substance Use Services through the Federal Community Mental Health Block Grant Program. We appreciate their guidance and their support. Now, without any further ado, welcome, James.
Hey everyone. Hey, Miss Morrison, how you doing?
I'm okay. I'm glad to be here. So, yeah, we always like to know the background of our guests. Tell us about yourself in a nutshell.
Well, I have 4 kids. I grew up in a poverty school area. I started getting incarcerated when I was maybe 12 to 13 years old. My last prison sentence I finished in 2016. I'm now married. I have become a peer support specialist, have got acclimated to society as also a substance abuse counselor, as well as a community inclusion specialist. So, hey, it's been a struggle, but things have gotten a whole lot better since I've been released from prison.
Yeah, well, you've done well for yourself, and you're really making a wonderful difference for other people, other men. So kudos to you for that. That's really powerful and really important stuff. Let's start with the basics. What are some of the barriers that hold people back after they're incarcerated?
I would say first, maybe self-esteem. A lot of your rights are taken from you once you're in there. That's probably the main thing, the foundation of your self-esteem, and you don't really feel like anyone cares. A lot of times when your self-esteem is low, you don't feel like you, and a lot of times people are not educated. If you get been down for a long time, you don't have no one in there to help you get acclimated to what you're going to face upon your release. And I think
Mhm.
that's a lot of the barriers. And it's not right. If the system is not kind of conducive to you getting out and being successful, it has to kind of really be self-driven. If you don't have that drive to get out and be successful, it's going to be kind of hard while you're in there.
Yeah.
Mm.
It sounds like, it's sort of a swimming upstream kind of feeling, for
Mm.
sure.
Yes.
Um, but you made a comment, which we put in the write-up that really stuck with me every time I look at it. I felt ashamed if I went someplace. I felt like people would look at me and see a criminal. And that just really tore at my heart because, we all have those times when we feel like nobody's going to give us a break. I mean, I live with mental health challenges, so I see that. I feel like I've had that through a different lens. Um, but I mean, that's really powerful to feel like people aren't going to give you a chance, and there is stigma and there is discrimination. Can you say more about how you got over that?
I say loved ones, my natural support, people encouraging me. I think that's the main thing. Like what I do now with Alliance of Disability Africans, having someone there to, hey, encourage me and speak kind words, positive affirmation. Hey, you can make it. Things have changed. It was like the encouragement from my family. That was the biggest things. I think having people around you that really care and don't mind taking out the time to teach you and them letting it be known, because a lot of times it's this stigma, they're not doing it sincerely. But when people really shit, and that takes sacrifice. But that's the man. When you come out of prison, a lot of you're gonna be broken. You may not. A lot of men, especially men, we introverts who won't show it, but deep down inside, they want somebody to know, hey, it's all right not to know. I'm here. I'm going to help you. I'm going to walk you. That's empowering. That's empowering. Because all those rights, all those things are scripted. If you're eating in there and they say, hey, child time is over, you got to put
Mhm.
up your plate. If you want to eat, if you was talking, you got to put up your plate, or you're gonna go to confinement. And it wears on you mentally. You can go in there. I was a young kid. I didn't see myself as I got mixed up with the wrong crowd, but I feel like I had more mental issues after I got out. Before, like I
Right,
came up, I think I had more, and I've seen where I actually suffer from maturity wise. So I mean, I didn't get a chance to mature. It kind of stunts your growth. So you have to have somebody to care and be able to walk you through. And a lot of times it's a stigma out there. You should know this if you're this age. But if I've been incarcerated and I didn't learn, I don't know. And a lot of people they find out you got a record, they really shouldn't. They don't really. I have
right.
experienced that a lot. I have experienced that a lot, you know. But
Yeah,
what offsets that though is having people that cares. So if you have someone that cares, even though you have people that shun you, you have someone else that come along and empower you, and the empowerment always want to override the negative with me, with a lot of guys anyway.
yeah. That is so encouraging to hear. And as you were talking about the differences that you come out of incarceration with, that, no, I didn't learn this. I didn't go through this rite of passage, this graduation, and learning how to do something on a computer. It's almost like a version of trauma informed care that you have to be aware of what the deficits might be because of what you were able to experience and what you had to miss. Um, you meaning everybody, um, and everybody in that situation. Um, and I do see more and more. I mean, I follow the news about with isolation and just the whole structure of incarceration, that people do come out with anxiety, with depression, with
Oh
post-traumatic
yes.
stress.
I remember a time where I think my sister, somebody wanted me to go to the unemployment office, and I wasn't saying nothing, but I was kind of ashamed. I said, I don't know how to work a computer. I don't know how to do this stuff. So when I went in there, it was like I didn't. So I'm just sitting at the computer. I'm like, I don't know. what to do. And it was a lady, she was nice enough to say, "Are you okay?" I said, "Yes, ma'am, I never." And she would let me help you. And she actually walked me through it. And that, when you talk about anxiety, wow. And you got a lot of guys, if it wasn't because of my sister, I wouldn't have went. Now you got guys that don't have a sister or something, oh, they're not going to go there. If you're not encouraged, and if they don't know that stuff, and I did 6 years from 18 till I was like 24, if they don't know that stuff, they're not going to go inside. They're going to feel ashamed. And that shame and that pride is going to have them, I'm not going to try to apply for no job.
Right. And it's kind of protective. I don't want to have my heart shredded. I don't want to feel
Yeah.
humiliated. I get that. So you've talked a little bit already about how you personally overcame those barriers. Your wife, your sister, your church community gave you that hand up, and they saw you, not a stereotype. But what else helped you personally overcome those barriers?
Um, I started, when I think my last time, I started wanting to change. I mean, a lot of guys, I was in there with guys that didn't want to change. And then it was times where you may want to change, you don't have the help. But I started being proactive while I was incarcerated. I started inquiring through using the little bit of resources that I did have while I was in there. I started using them. So my mind was kind of, hey, you know what? I don't want to get out and come back to prison. I don't want to do this. So I started reaching out. If it was a officer, if it was the preacher that came that preached that, so I'm asking anyone if I could talk to them. Hey, do you know of any halfway houses, homeless shelters? Do you know anyone hiring? I started being more proactive because I had made up in my mind. I said I don't want to come back to prison. So I think that was because every time I have been since then, I can't say I was serious about not coming back because I did, but when I got serious within myself that I didn't want to come back, I started being more proactive.
Was there a turning point that made you more serious about it?
I think yes, it was. It was once I was getting older, my kids was suffering, not being with me. I'm start saying that I don't want to live like this. The food got terrible in there. I mean, when I actually suffering, you start seeing the treatment, and hey, so it wasn't getting any better. It was getting worse. And I said, I can't live like this. And I couldn't even eat the last time I was in prison. I said, I can't even eat. And I didn't have no family members at the time sending me any money. So I did a hard time. I mean, I was like, man, I can't live like this. I'm in my late 30s. I said, no, I'm gonna change. I'm gonna change my life. That's what really, yeah.
Right, right. Yeah. So you provide step-by-step guidance to the men you work with. They're learning to live independently on the outside. Can you tell us about the steps involved in finding housing?
Yes, at first the housing. When guys get out, I make sure first I get them all their professional documents, social security card, ID, and things of that nature. Before they can apply for housing. As always, I have to, a lot of times now when guys getting out the SSI and things, if they're having disability services is kind of being implemented now before they get out, but I identify the income. I identify the income, and if there is no income, I'm looking at shelters or helping advocate with them with family members. But that big barrier is income. I have to get the social security card and birth certificates and things of that nature. They have applications that you can actually fill out and send them in. But that income barrier is a big barrier. So I want to identify that from that perspective. Then I want to identify, hey, getting them employed, getting them the SSI benefits, because I have a lot of guys that when they get out, they may be in the process of getting their claims or maybe in the process of getting a job, but without no income. That's where the break come in at housing. Unfortunately, like a lot of guys, when I first started working with Alliance of Disability Advocates, we had a grant and we was actually putting guys in hotels. And that was great, putting guys in hotels and things of that nature. So we'll work with them, get them acclimated to society. So when that money ran out, they could transition and have somewhere to stay. But we're not able to do that. But that's the first thing I want to do. Make sure they have all their documents, because the people want to know, a lot of times now they want you to have 3 times the rent. So if the rent's $800, they want you to make $2,400 a month. So, so I have to identify the income, social security card, ID, and ID and birth certificate. That's what I want to get to first, and target housing, start reaching out to the resources. I always try to identify income base first, identify criminal charges, how long they've been. A lot of times with certain charges, especially if you have a sexual charge, or it's kind of it's hard then. It's very sad for guys in that when it comes to housing. So
Right.
yes. Mhm.
That makes a lot of sense. In your experience, where do the gentlemen typically go after they're released? Do they have a family member, a couch
Family
somewhere?
members, a lot of times family members, they'll go back to their family members. Then you have some guys that get out, they may have their benefits started right back, or they may have something in place. But a lot of times they go out with their family members, they stay with their family members, and then they get acclimated back to society. Like the halfway house, I had one guy, his family didn't want him to, they didn't want him to stay with them, so I found them a halfway house with a rooming house, and
Okay,
they could pay every month, and that's kind of, I think it's like $400 or $500 a week, about a month. So they was able to pay that. So finding those resources, that's exactly what we do. Some guys I even had to go to shelter. And it was one guy, I think
right.
he got his money. He was in central prison. I think his funds was already reestablished when he got out. It was on his card, so he was able to go straight to a hotel. So
Nice.
it's so we do have social workers and people inside the prisons that's helping a lot of guys now too as well. So that's good.
Right, right. Um, and so kind of a similar question. What steps are you helping your customers with as they look for employment, if they're looking for employment?
Yes, I like to. At first, I have to tell them, because it's a stigma that no one wants to hire me because I've been incarcerated. I'm like, no. Now since COVID, I want you to know, since COVID, a lot of people, when COVID arrived, they had to find business, had to find ways to work for themselves, other forms of income. So now employees, whether you have a criminal record or not, employers, they're ready to hire you. So I want to let them know this, so there'll be encouragement, because a lot of times if you have a mental barrier, you won't be motivated to apply. So then,
Right,
I get them their ID. I do some mock interviewing with them. I let them know what to expect, how to stand. Don't over don't ever overtalk yourself. I always like to tell them, because a lot of guys in prison, like myself, you feel like you have to explain and kind of overvalidate yourself, but you're speaking from a place where you kind of feel hurt, and you feel like you have overtalk because you really want the job, you want them to see you on the whole light, but the whole time they don't really know you. So I just have those my interviewing skills. I like to have them to have to present themselves. We have a great house, like a clothing room inside our office, where you can go in there and get your clothing, your ties like this. I want
nice.
them to look presentable. I want to show them how to do. So we have a suit closet. We can dress them up. Hey, and then a lot of times we even go in there with them if they don't mind. I like to advocate with them, talking to the employers. I let them know, hey, this is a guy that we're working with. We advocate for them, and all that stuff. We really like to do that to help them get that employment. And a lot
Yeah.
of times when they know that they have a criminal record, but they have someone that's going to help them and be there with them and vouch
Hmm.
for them, they're more open to hiring
Right. Yeah,
them.
it gives them confidence that, all right, someone is vouching for this person. It sounds like a wraparound approach, which is, I have to think that's got to be super helpful to the men. They get help with the wardrobe, the work clothes, the interview suit. They can go and pick something out. They're doing a mock interview so they don't feel like they're
Yeah.
going in cold. It helps them get warmed up and figure out what answers. Okay, I was gonna go this way, but that didn't sound
Hmm.
right once it came out of my mouth. Because we all have that. I have a brother. I'm the youngest of six, and he does a mock interview with me every time I have a big job interview, and it really helps. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
that sounded good in my head, but when I said it, it did not.
Yeah. Hmm. And a lot of times, with the employers, once I let them know that, the situation, or they let them know, they kind of like they have is great. Like if there is any red flags, they give them a benefit of the doubt, because they know that, hey, this guy just got out of prison. So it's kind of
Sure.
comfort level. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So you have a list of employers, it sounds like, who you're partnering with, and you're able to communicate with them and set it up so that everyone knows what
Mhm.
to expect.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. Um, so how do people make friends after incarceration? Do they have to find new friends and avoid the old folks that they hung out with?
Yeah, I think more so with me and even a lot of the guys that I think it's the mindset. A lot of the guys, if you don't have a mindset that you want to change or you want to do things different, you're going to have the same type of friends. But if you have the mindset, if you want to change, you'll meet new friends. You know, a lot of them find the friends that in work. When they start working, they'll
Yeah.
find their friends, or they may move to a. There's a lot of guys they may get the SSI, but they may do little stuff cleaning up for people that make money. They make friends like that. Because a lot of times, if you're older, it's more so of you having, I ain't gonna say a lot of like friends, but just people that you talk to, you may correspond with through some endeavors you're doing with them, or you go to church with them, and it just kind of like, especially with men anyway, especially a lot of men, they have people. I might have myself they can talk to, or they'll go out and go to church or get involved in the community. That's how they really get. I like to get my guys involved in the community and doing things, and it helps them meet new people. And I like to have them connected with different resources, especially a therapist and things of that nature. They need a lot of guys. You need a therapist. I know I got friends that's therapists. I got therapy when I got out. I mean, you need a therapist and things of that nature. And I know that's kind of professional, but at the same time, it's not so much of having a friend. When you're getting out, you need somebody you can talk to. You need somebody
Hmm.
that's going to help you because a lot of stuff you're going through. You need somebody that's going to support, encourage you, and motivate you. First and foremost, is not the real fin. The real fin.
Right. Right. Someone who can see things from a different perspective and,
Mhm.
you know, kind of give you that insight. That's a really important point. How hard is it for folks to find a therapist who really gets their experience if they're Black, Indigenous, or person of color and who's been incarcerated? Is there ever a disconnect that way?
Oh yes, it's a disconnect, and that's why I always love to I bridge that gap. I'm in the middle because they're like, man, it's very. And I tell them my experiences, and where I'm coming from, and after they know me, and I'm telling my experiences, they're like, well, I do it because James, if you telling me that it's going to be beneficial, I said I try. I go through there with you. Sign a recently consent to release the information. You don't mind me being there. Hey,
Mhm.
but I'm always that bridge. I had one guy, I think he was down for 36 years. He was down for a long
Wow.
time, and he was kind of totally against it, and I kept encouraging him. And he was like, James, I do it, and it's been beneficial for him. So I always, yeah, you're right. A lot of times it's a rebooter there. It's a rebooter there because they don't want to have to share what's going on in the inside, but they don't know that's the part of the healing process. So I tell them that, and then they're open to it. Some don't, but a lot of times they do because once I build that relationship with them and they kind of connect with me because I've been in prison, they will actually be more open to it. And sometimes they'll do it just on because I suggested it. And then once they experienced it, they'll be like, James, I'm glad I got that therapy, man. I'm glad.
Yeah. Well, I love your comment, "I'm the bridge," and that
Yeah,
you'll go with them, you'll be part of
yeah.
it. I mean, that really gives them that safety.
Because
Really
I was like
empower.
this. I mean, I was getting therapy one time, and she was a nice lady. I don't know what she was, but it was getting in. I just broke down and went to crying. I'm like, oh my God. So I was kind of like, oh, I was thinking back, and she was like, it's okay. And I'm like, man, I didn't know this, but it was very therapeutic. It was good. I didn't know I would, if I wouldn't have had that experience. So when I go to these guys, I'm telling them from experience, I have had therapy. They was able to get down to the root of a lot of the things that I was going through.
Mhm.
They was able to get to the root of it and things of that nature. So
Awesome. That's really, I think that shows a real depth of commitment that you would go you know, that you would walk that road with them and be willing to go to an actual session with them, if I'm hearing
Yeah.
you correctly. I
Yes,
love
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Because a lot of times once you go initially, but once they get comfortable,
that.
they go by themselves.
Sure, right. Yeah, you're gonna have to go every time. Um, Getting lots of shout outs from Craig and Sharif in the chat box. Also a shout out from James Wayne Bell on Facebook. So it's always nice to hear familiar names and see familiar folks. So thanks everyone for being here with us. It's such an important topic. It's just way too many people affected by this, and it's wonderful, so important that we have heroes of recovery like James and Craig and Waleed, or Sharif, I'm sorry, to get out there and be there for people, and you know, reclaim community, a community that includes everybody and has space for everybody. So what specific supports do your customers need to take care of their mental health aside from therapy? You covered a big one.
Yeah, a lot of that peer support, that peer support, they really need that peer support. A lot of times they need to be kind of like babysit. People they're not babysit, but kind of like handheld. You have to have the help and kind of coach them through it. They need to be coached. They need someone that's going to walk them through this. Because if they don't have one that's going to walk them through this and teach them, and a lot of times the social workers are when they get out, the people that have so many guys, people they're working with, they can't do it. But to have someone like me in there, I'm a walker. I had a guy, I taught him I did his email, taught him how to check his email. He said, James, I don't know how to check my, I don't know how to, because everyone's asking and requesting, hey, have an email. We're going to correspond with you with email. So I taught him how to do an email. I taught him how to do that resume. I said, well, you applying for these jobs online? This is how you upload it. We're going to show him how to do he said, James, I just want to thank you. Breaking literally in tears. Like, man, I want to know what I would do for you, because just those things, they need that peer support. That peer support is the main thing. Someone that'll take that time out and teach them a lot of things that they don't know, and that's when they got comfortable. That's how my wife was with me. My wife, she taught me a whole lot of stuff. And members from my church, a lot of different friends and people that wasn't, a lot of people that I encountered, they taught me stuff. When I got jobs, they taught me a lot of things, and I was able to learn, and I got confident. So I think that peer support, that person right there with them, because the peer support can advocate, it'll teach you how to get acclimated to society, an email, apply for, create a resume, all those things, how to do housing applications, because a lot of things now are done online. You have to do it, you have to know how to navigate. So that's the main thing.
Yeah, I can relate to that myself, but like every time I get a new laptop, okay, where is the email? I made a file now, where did it save? So I can imagine being disconnected and not having the chance to get hands-on computer experience, and then suddenly you're out and you can't hardly communicate without it. So yeah,
even like learning the bus system. I'm a travel trainer as well. You got guys getting out, they haven't never rode a bus. So I get on the bus with them, teach them how to ride the bus. And they're like, man, well, I have to get to X, Y, and Z. Well, I'm going to show you I'm going to come accompany you on the bus route. And you'll know how to navigate the bus system to get back and forth. Just all those things of that nature.
Right. And that is a fabulous example too, that it's not easy to take a bus. It sounds like it might be, but you've got transfers and you've got to leave 2 hours early or however early, depending on the route. Yeah.
Routes, bus stops, and all of that. Especially if you've been incarcerated in a new place. And a lot of guys, they get out, they don't want to go back to the same place. They want to go to a bigger city. They go to a halfway house, Raleigh, they go to Charlotte. They have different places that they want to go to. So to have people there, that peer support to walk them through, and that's the main thing.
Right. So many, it's like you said, step by steps. There's just all these. Yeah.
Really neat, because once you start teaching, they get the hang of it. Oh, I done seen guys they get the hang of it. They know they good then. They get the hang. It's more therapeutic then. You get past that barrier. It's more so keeping them encouraged, speaking positive affirmations of them, keeping them doing what they're doing. Once they get that job, they get housing, because you can get depressed. You get the mental health stuff, because it's gonna arise once you get out of prison. It's gonna, because it happened with me once I got out. It'll come up. It'll kind of come up like a heat flash. And just like it'll come over you. And you be like, man, trying to feel that depressed feeling, because you used to feeling like that because you were feeling like that in prison. So it don't just go away when you get out. You can start doing things that's good, but then that feeling to come over, they have to have someone to let them know that's how you felt in prison. That's that depressed nature. It's coming back. That's all that is. They have to have somebody, to help encourage them. And then once they have a consciousness towards, wow, this is how I used to feel in prison. They'll understand then that, because you can't go through that stuff mentally and then get out. Because if you create a pattern, you used to being depressed, you used to being anxious, you used to worrying, you used to doing a lot of things, and so it doesn't just stop when you get out of prison. But a lot of times, no one's there to let the guys know this is what's going on, or this is what they're experiencing.
That makes perfect sense. And when you're depressed, you feel like physically heavier, and you feel this like weighted down, I can barely move feeling. And when you go out and get rejected, or someone judges you without knowing you, then it's like it's just that much worse. So yeah, that I totally can see that happening, and it makes sense all that you're saying about just having a mentor and guide and someone who really hears your voice. Right. So you've accomplished a lot. What are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of, really with my faith, my inner demon, the stuff that I have went through, because you can't grow up the way I grew up. Been in prison, the many times I've been in prison, and be not normal. It's a lot of things I went through in the inside, but through my higher power, my praying, because I've been conscious of, I want this stuff gone. I don't want to live like this. I don't want to suppress anger. I don't want to suppress. I want to be free. And I think that's what I'm kind of walking into now. A lot of times I will be suppressing a lot of things, but now it's kind of like spontaneously, I'm starting to be happy. I'm having more joy, and I'm like, I'm okay. Somebody reject me. Hey, okay, I'm rejected. My faith, the person I believe in, they was rejected. So I'm kind of getting, it's all right to be rejected. It doesn't mean, a lot of times people reject you because they're hurt.
Right.
They're going through, they're the one that's kind of, so having empathy and mercy, hey, I can see myself. I used to be just like that. I hurt people. I did bad things, so it's just like, yeah, that's what's kind of I'm able to, not able to suppress my inner demons or what, because I have did some stuff, and you can't do this stuff and it just leave you. You're going to have some therapy. You're going to have some real help. So now I'm kind of feel like, wow, the characteristics and my behavior and things that used to bother me in the inside that I knew about and never told nobody, it doesn't bother me no more. And that's what makes me, because I believe everything else with working on the outside, that'll come. If I can have this freedom in the inside and just be, a person, just be a person, just be a person. I don't have to live in fear. I don't have to be that guy. I can be free. I can live life. I can be a loving husband, father, and stuff like that without all the baggage that I experienced through incarceration and all my bad habits that I created.
Right. I love a lot of your statements. I love that, I want this gone. I want this stuff gone. And to some of us, whether it's for trauma or mental health conditions or whatever our circumstances gave us, we do have to work really hard to feel like it's just okay to be a person and have that inner peace. Yeah, so I definitely, that resonates a lot. Inner peace is the greatest value. Comment from Craig Waleed. Sometimes that feeling lasts many, many years after release from prison, post-incarceration syndrome. Thank you, Craig Waleed, for those comments.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, what does self-care look like for you today? You've spoken on that a little bit with your faith and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah, my faith and going to work, sticking to my positive patterns. I get up in the morning, I pray, I get my daughter dressed, I get her ready for school, and that's what myself. I'm looking at these things, and what really helps me, myself, I look back. But something happened, I look where I came from. I was homeless. And I got out of prison 2000. I was homeless.
Wow.
I was homeless 2016. I didn't have nowhere to go. I have two cars now. I have two homes. Me and my wife bought another house. So I'm like a lot of things. I'm like, man, hey, I got something to look forward to. I kind of like, it's kind of like, man, I got this far. I'm gonna keep doing my sticking to my pattern. I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing. I'm gonna keep going to church. I'm gonna keep talking to my pastor. I'm gonna keep reaching out to those supports. Hey, my therapist, I got like I got three friends, they're therapists. I'm gonna talk to them, man. I haven't always been like that. A lot of guys are not like that. I have learned that I need help. I have to have natural supports. I can't tackle all these things and care. I can't tackle it for myself and getting perspective from other people. That's my self-care. My wife, just everyone that's around me, Mr. Brown, especially at my job, everyone's encouraging, at my job, they're always speaking encouraging words. So that's good too. So hey, that's
That's
really yes.
beautiful. And isn't it funny how that's one of the hardest things to learn is just to reach out and talk to another person when you need help? For me,
Yeah,
at least.
yes, it really was bad for me because I have always heard I was an introvert and things like that. And I wouldn't always talk. Everybody said I was quiet, but I actually witnessed, others letting others in. I had to
Mhm.
have this experience. Okay, do this. I know you might not understand, James, but do this. Then when I do this, and I'm like, wow, dang, if I wouldn't have listened to this, because like a lot of things I have stepped into since I've been out, if I didn't listen to the people that was around me, I wouldn't have did it. Only thing they gave it, and hey, I'm gonna follow back up, which I think this is great for you. Just do it. I'm like, man, I don't want to. I just want to do simple stuff. They're like, no, you need to step into this. You need to do
Hmm.
this, man. I think this would be. I'm like, man. I'm like, wow. Hey, you have to. And then when I do it, I'm like, wow, this was good, man. So it's kind of, so next time they come to talk to me, I'm kind of ready to listen. I'm kind of ready to listen. I get that phone call, they got some kind of ready to listen there because I let them in. I really let them in, and a lot of times I wouldn't let people in. I really
Mm.
wouldn't let them in. I may listen to them, but after I'm out of I didn't really take it. But when I had people persistent, following back up, hey, did you do? Well, and then I actually started doing. I'm like, wow, I'm glad I did this. I'm glad I did that. So,
Mm. Question in the chat box. How did you gain this insight, wisdom, and humility?
oh, I think it was more so with my faith, and praying and stuff like that, and having more of a conscience towards not wanting to be that same person. I believe if I have a higher power, if I have something that I believe in that's greater than me, you can help me not be like this. I need something to help me. I'll be angry. I did some stuff, man. I encountered some bad stuff, and I gave my vessel to it, gave my body to it. So it was kind of like, hey. So I started praying, and hey, can you help me with this? I'm angry.
Mm.
I get depressed, and I want to see some freedom. I want to give you a higher power. You higher than this, taking this away from me. So I started getting real personal with my instead of dealing with a lot of other people or having because I did that and I kept it didn't get me nowhere. I kept having accusation with my mother. She wasn't there. She was running men when I was a young boy. My father wasn't ever there. I had justified a lot of stuff, and it wasn't getting me nowhere. Since I was 12 or 13 years old, I always had an accusation against other people. The reason why I wasn't being in a better position. But then I started talking to different people. I had to really start reflecting on myself. Like, if you want to change, James, you're gonna have to change. You can't look. You're gonna have to look within. What are you going? I'm like, man, I'm the problem. I'm my own problem. So I started being more conscious of that. That hey, I'm my own problem. So when I got in the church and things like that, I started praying towards these issues that was inside of me that would reflect a lot of manifestation and things I did on the outside. So I started
Mm,
being more conscious of that, and I started seeing certain stuff I wouldn't respond the same. I was like, man, this is working. So yeah, just like that
mm.
happened. Yeah.
It does sound like you've followed a path for a long time of rigorous honesty and hard work. Um, I know for me, I had an era, with depression and some trauma, um, and I just could never get along with anyone, and everyone around me was always a jerk. And at some point, I realized if everybody around me was always a jerk, maybe someone else was a jerk. Maybe I needed
Mhm.
to look at my behavior and see what I needed to do differently. Yeah.
That's what
What
happened.
gives you hope?
Um, hope. I guess my faith gives me hope. That's what gives me hope. I mean, that's what gives me hope. Because outside of everything that I have been blessed with externally, I know from my experiences it can be gone like that. Um,
Mhm.
it can be gone like that. The only thing it takes is, I have seen people, and a lot of people can't relate. I have seen guys get out and be very successful and squander everything in a years and maybe a week. They
Mm,
can just squander everything. So it's kind of like my faith. I have to be grounded in my faith and my higher power. That's what gives me hope.
yeah. Um, we're gonna step away from the interview part of the program, but I really want to thank you, James, for your courage. And I mean, you're very articulate, and you've shared a lot of things that you've been through and things that you experienced at different times. And it really helps people to hear that and have you put it on the table and realize, he walked this really difficult path and maybe I can do it too. So I just really want to honor your experience and thank you so much for sharing all that you've shared tonight. Okay. So we're going to wrap up the interview part of the show before we move to our video of the week. A big shout out to our volunteer working behind the scenes, Ms. Caitlin Rita. She's an MSW student at App State. And of course, super thanks to James for spending your evening with us. Um, for our video of the week, we usually do something kind of fun and lighthearted. This is one of our former mascots here at NAMI, North Carolina, Roxy Morrison, the Beagle Mix.
Yellow blue summertime, watching as all worries float away. Feels like everything's going our way. Feels like everything's going our way. Red and pink lemonade, killing time underneath the shade.
Aw, kind of apropos of nothing, but it's a dog video. How can you go wrong? All right, everyone. Thanks for hanging with us this far. We are going to take questions from our friends on Zoom and from folks in Facebook Live. Please just type your comment in the chat on Facebook and we'll look for it. Or if you can type your comment in the Q&A, then I will make sure that James gets your question. I see one in the chat right now from Jess McCutcheon. Thank you for sharing your story with us tonight. Continue to shine your light bright. You are making a difference in the lives of others. Well said. All right. And then we've got a question from Sharif here in the Q&A. Did you think your own successful re-entry brings you more joy or assisting another with their successful re-entry? That's a good question.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think my joy of my reentry helps me assist others. I believe like that's what helps me motivate because when I see others, I see myself. So I think more so that joy, it helps me. It helps me. It's kind of a balance. I think it's not one outweighs the other. I feel like it begins with me. If I'm not joyful, if I'm not founded, or I can't help nobody. I have seen days where I couldn't help nobody because that day was just man. So my reentry or their reentry wasn't important that day because I wasn't stable. So I had to get myself more stable. So I think it's more so of a balance. When I'm
Mhm.
joyful and I'm upbeat and it helps them. I'm able to help them as well.
Right. Yeah, that's a great answer. It's always a balancing act, but there is that special energy boost of helping another person. We do have a question from Facebook. How long were you in therapy and are you still in therapy slash counseling?
Yes, I stayed in therapy for like what 2 years. I'm actually in therapy now. I'm not actually I have my pastor, he's a licensed clinical therapist, LCSW. So I get a lot of therapy from him. He actually runs a mental health agency. So I get a lot of my therapy from him. I have insurance, but it's not nothing like that. And I have a couple of my members at my church, they're therapists as well. So I get a lot of my therapy from them, and I just go to them or they'll call me, hey, what's going on?
Right.
So I tell them what's going on because they can see. It's
Yeah.
obvious. They see me. We may have services 3 times a day. What's going on? And I tell them, and they give me therapy. It'd be very therapeutic. And afterwards, I'm always okay. I'm always, so I'm still getting therapy there.
Sure. Sounds like you've got a really good support network.
Yeah, yes.
Question another from Facebook. How long did it take you to overcome, quote, being institutionalized? In other words, how long did it take to feel normal again, doing things without being told you could or could not?
Oh no, that's still I'm still going through that. I'm not. I mean, I'm better now than I was before, but it's still there. My conscience still let me see little tendencies. Those things are still visit me. I remember, even with this, when Sharifa told me about this, first thought I heard, come on, you can't do that. It's like something like you. It's kind of like it's still there. It's still there. I still have to press. I still have to press through. I can go in certain environments, and it's something to try to lay on me. You don't belong here. Look what you did. I'm like, wow. It's like a little voice that always reminding you. It's like so. It's not. I think I have learned to I think I have learned to live and look at the brighter things in life. But I think I can't say that I actually got over it. I'm still, I'm
Mm.
way farther than I am now. But to be honest, I'm still it still comes visit you. It still comes visit you. And then you
That's
have
really
people then you have family members of different people that will remind you when you don't care to be reminded. So some stuff, that stuff can be triggers. And when people go through triggers and things of that nature, someone can actually say something, especially if it's a loved one, or bring up something, and that could be a trigger for you. And you wouldn't maybe thought it was a trigger until you was presented with it, and you like, wow, that really bothered me. You know.
mm.
Mhm.
So what might be an example of a trigger like a slamming bar sound, or you mean more
Um,
people, the way people talk to you?
maybe a trigger like for me if I just say um so I was with one of my at my family members. We had a gathering. Come on, man, you're not gonna drink. You think you're better than this now, or your accusation, or you're not also so you can't. Why you don't come to these family functions, or why you can't do? I'm like, wow, and I'm thinking coming from my loved ones, it'll be more so a receptive or kind of like, hey, you're doing better now. We kind of appreciate that, but it's still kind of a lot of backlash, and it kind of, I'm like, wow, y'all remember how it used to be. So if
Yeah.
I'm not going to these things, or I'm not engaging in these things, it could be a reason why. but a lot of times it's kind of, but that can be a
That's
trigger. That could be a trigger, but I'm getting more comfortable with different stuff like that. And it could be a trigger too. Like I have been at places and people would talk to me normal, and then it would get out with someone else. He has been incarcerated. And then I may encounter, and I'm like, this person's treating me totally different because they found out I was incarcerated, or I had,
ouch.
yeah. So it's kind of like, yeah, and it triggers you, be like, wow, because you kind of let this person in, because you're that type of person. I'm not the type of person that, whoever you are, I'm gonna be there for, and then you see a characteristic like, wow, why are they doing that? And then you find out. So yeah.
Uh, yeah, that's painful. That's ouch. Um, it from what you were saying earlier about, oh, you think you're too good to do this now. I kind of got the feeling that sometimes there are penalties with success, that whether
Mhm.
it's your sobriety or, people seeing that you've progressed and that you have a good job and you dress a certain way. So, oh, now you're not going to come and hang with us.
Oh
Um,
yeah. I actually had one of my close family members like, hey man, why don't you throw on some why don't you do like that's all like what they wanted me to dress like I used to dress and different stuff. I want you to kind of loosen up, man. I'm like wow. I'm like, loosen up. I'm free. I'm loose. I'm loose. So it's kind of like, so, and a lot of times they don't know what I go through, and what bothers one person may not bother another person. So if it's going to trigger, if it's going to, I kind of square away. I don't want to enter into something presumptuously, and it bothers me. Now, maybe I believe 2, 3 years from now, that'll pass too. I don't believe I have to live with this for the rest of my life. I'm conscious of it. I have a higher power, and I know I should be a reflection. I should be able to shine light to certain ones, but it's in its own timing. I'm not going to enter into something that can be detrimental to my well-being. But when the time comes, I know I'll be able to, hey, deal with it. But right now, I'm still, everyone has to grow through things, and I have looked
right.
at through my life. It's a lot of things right now I couldn't handle 3 years ago. When I got out of prison, it's a lot of things I couldn't do it right. I wasn't mentally, I wasn't stable. So I have learned in my life as I grow as a person, I'm able to encounter different things, and they don't bother me the way it did maybe 2 or 3 years ago. So
Hmm. Absolutely. And it sounds like you have a self-awareness about how to pace yourself and how to check in with yourself and read a situation and make that decision on a case by case basis.
yes.
Really helpful comment from Craig Waleed. I had asked, what are some triggers? And Craig wrote, jingling keys and small rooms always trigger me. You're laughing.
Mhm.
Is that relatable?
Oh yes, yes, yeah. Yeah, especially jiggly keys, yeah. Because you always hear them, they're locking up chains, when you're incarcerated, things like that.
Yeah, as soon as I read that, I thought I could,
Oh yeah,
I
you're
get
gonna hear the keys. Yeah, you're gonna hear the keys. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I could see hearing the keys and
Especially in
feeling that,
solitary confinement. Yeah,
oh,
especially in solitary confinement.
yeah, that's heavy. That's heavy. I don't know much about that, other than what I've read, but powerful and traumatic. And I'm sorry for if you've been through that
Oh
or,
yes, I think I did 6 months in a room. Man, that was some tough time. Now that's was solitary confinement. That was, yeah. A lot of people don't never be the same when they come out of it. I've met
six
guys they
months.
never. Yeah, I have seen guys being there 2 or 3 years. You can't. You're gonna be mentally. Yeah, you're gonna be. Yeah. And I was in there for
Absolutely.
6 months, but it's just one room. I mean, yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, that's brutal. I'm so glad that you were able to come through that and just have this depth of understanding and insight that you can now share with other people who need to come out of that dark hole themselves. So, all right. Let's see, we've got a lull in the questions, so I'll make some announcements. Please fill out our video at the end of the program. If you're on Zoom, when you leave Zoom, a survey will magically appear. It helps us improve the show over time, and it helps us show the funders the value of what we do. We really appreciate your comments and feedback on Zoom. We had a speaker lined up for next week who is canceled, so we have a mystery speaker. I actually have no idea who it will be. If you want to be the speaker, please reach out to me. James, do you want to come back next week?
Oh, okay.
I'm hoping I'll find someone. I've had someone cancel, so we'll see how it goes. I'll keep you all posted. There is one more question on Facebook. Do you ever work with veterans?
No, I haven't. I haven't worked with veterans. Unless like if we had a client or someone get out of prison that maybe being a veteran, but any organization just structured around veterans, no, I haven't.
Okay. I know that a lot of agencies have veteran support, so please give us a call at our NAMI North Carolina helpline. You can call or email or text, and we will connect you with whatever services you're looking for in your part of the state. Yeah, so is there a question that I have not asked you yet, James, that you would like to
Oh yeah, there
address?
was a question about what could help the barriers with people getting out. And I think what'll help is if guys have maybe while they're incarcerated, because you can't help everyone, because everyone doesn't want to be helped. But guys that's proactive in prison, if they're proactive, they're taking on trades, they're going to college, they haven't had many write-ups, and they have a pattern through with the COs and the correctional officers in there that they're being proactive and with their reentry once they enter into prison, because that's when it starts. I believe a lot of times, if it was something in place for guys like that, that'll break the barrier. Like the funding, like we was helping guys getting out, get acclimated to society. It's guys like that. They're being very proactive. If we can target those guys within the prison system that's in prison to getting trades, construction, criminal justice degrees, in school, and things of that nature, I think it'll help, because a lot of times, if you're not proactive in there, you already know what you're going to do when you get out. A lot of guys that's doing things in there, and I think that'll be good. If they don't have a lot of write-ups and they're doing things proactive to acclimate themselves to society in prison, to target those guys to help them get out and be successful, because they're actually doing the steps in there. So I think it'll help with the, guys going back in and doing things like that.
That sounds like a fantastic solution, and we know companies are screaming for good help. So if we can get people skilled up, get them training, get them practice, help them come along and find a way to support themselves, it's a big win for everybody. All right. And again, if you'd like to learn more about mass incarceration and systemic racism, please call NAMI North Carolina's policy director, Ashish George. He's a wonderful contact. He loves to talk policy, and he will connect you with the resources or the organizations who are working on these issues, with legislators, with those levels that can change the rules and change what's happening behind the scenes that keeps this problem going. So please feel free to reach out to Ashish George.
Thank you.
Yeah, so many things to do. We have our work cut out for us as advocates, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
All right, let's have a peek. I don't see more questions. Great job, James. Never had a doubt for a second from Sharif. Of course not. And I don't see any other questions. James, do you have any final thoughts or words of wisdom for us?
No, it was a great experience. Just continue to impact lives one day at a time.
Absolutely, one day at a time. You can see what a fantastic turnaround that you can make with the effort and the hard work of emotional recovery and giving back to your community. James, you've done a fantastic job um, sharing your experience and your insights. You've been through a lot, and again, I appreciate your courage and really want to honor all that you shared with us tonight and all that you've been through. Thank you so much for spending your time with us tonight.
You're welcome. Y'all welcome.
All right. If you're out there feeling alone, feeling like you're on a road that nobody else understands, nobody hears your voice or wants to take time for you, please give us a call at NAMI. We would love to hear from you. The helpline is on Facebook and in the Zoom chat. It's also online. Give us a call. We would love to talk with you. And have a wonderful night, everyone. Thanks, James. Take care.
You're welcome. You too now.
Bye.